Hello, good morning, warm welcome. It is time to decode the Economic Times newspaper. How is everyone doing? And today, before I begin, I'm going to wait for everybody to join. People who are watching the recording, just 2 minutes because we're waiting for people to join. And today, the conversation that you're going to hear from me is on inflation. Inflation is called mehengai in Hindi for women who understand Hindi. And it has risen to an 8-year high. So the headline, front page headline is retail inflation hits 8-year high of 7.8% in April. The highest inflation in the last 8 years happened in April. And that's the conversation we're going to have today and see how we can manage our money better given that this is the situation that's happening. What needs to happen, how this affects our daily life, more. That's what we're going to talk about. And people who are joining, I can see some of you have joined. Please acknowledge that you are here with me, listening to me, and participating for your financial growth. So jump in, share, and stay tuned. Also, I am not paid by Economic Times to do this decoding. So I'm right here doing it inside of being an independent investor myself, and I know reading really helps. So I'm helping everybody to learn. Preeti, Jyoti, Prerna, Sunita, good morning my people, and I love those hearts coming my way. Warm welcome. Hi Kaveri, Usha. Warm welcome my people. What an absolute privilege having each one of you. Yes, good morning to Priyanka and good morning to my community. I love that. Absolutely, Kaveri. Hi, Mukta. Good morning. Warm welcome. Keep those hearts coming. So, retail inflation hits 8-year high of 7.8% in April. Retail inflation hardened more than expected to an 8-year high of 7.79% in April, strengthening expectations that the central bank will raise interest rates again. Remember, we did this decoding and we said Reserve Bank of India has increased the interest rates. So it increased the repo rate, and because of that, the banks increased the interest rates they were charging on loans from people like you and me. We take loans and they became expensive. And now with inflation hitting yet another high, 8-year high in April, this is what is being expected, that the interest rates will further go up, right? Because it will squeeze the liquidity out of the market, and the more the liquidity goes out, what will happen? Demand will reduce. Because people will have less money at their disposal. When people will have less money at their disposal, demand will reduce, right? When demand reduces, the supply remains the same, the prices will stabilize. So, inflation happens when there is a lot of money in the market. In the economy there's a lot of money, and because of that, there's a lot of demand. Because when people will have money in hand, they'll have demands, and when there is more demand than the supply that exists, there'll be inflation. So inflation will now be curbed given that this has been so high, 7.8%, let me repeat. And and now what are the measures that we can take to make sure we're not as much hit by inflation is a conversation we can have at a consumer level. I'm reading further. Again, the policy review is expected early next month, and which is June, right? Early June, then this is expected. And last week the increase had come from RBI, and maybe then the June 1st week will be another increase. Until then, we will be reeling under high inflation. So given the runaway inflation and the likelihood that it may become more broad-based, the fiscal policy also now needs to support monetary tightening. in managing the price rise. Now there's an expert, okay, chief economist of ICRA, who's saying, his name is Aditi Nair. She's saying the surge in the CPI, consumer price index inflation, has clearly justified the off-cycle rate hike last week and significantly raised the likelihood of a back-to-back rate increase in June 2022. So she's talking about the same thing. Interest rates to rise in 2022. And if you're looking at taking a loan, know that it's going to be a little expensive. That's what's going to happen. And as consumers, how do we save ourselves from inflation so that we are not spending more money to buy the same quantity of products and services is a conversation I would like to discuss with everybody. So start typing. How do we save ourselves from the rising inflation as consumers? How can we make sure we are not spending more money to buy the same quantity? Hi Meenal, Ritika, hey Rupal. Yes, it's crazy. Inflation is so high. I'm loving the smileys Rupal and Usha are giving me. Please start typing, everybody. How do we save ourselves from inflation? My straight thing is don't spend. Don't spend, Priyanka, I tell myself. Don't spend unnecessarily. Only basics. If I want to spend, then I spend only on entertainment and a certain quality of entertainment I spend on. Otherwise, I'm fine, I'm happy. You know, my mentor yesterday, I was in a class with her and session, and she said that, okay, you know, is your happiness at the effect of what other people's moods and feelings are? And I said, wow, what a conversation. Like, I'm completely responsible for causing my happiness, whether I spend money or not, or whether people treat me right or not, or whatever it is. Rupal is saying conscious spending. Preeti is saying reduce consumption. Jyoti is saying be frugal. And Usha is saying my floating loan interest also increased. Usha, yes, you're bearing the brunt of it. Sunita is saying think twice before spending on stuff which is not really needed. Yeah. Over the last some days, my husband and I, we are contemplating a holiday because we don't really need it. We want it and we are wondering how much do we want to spend on it. We've taken various quotes and now we're like, okay, what to do?